Okay, let's talk about ratio. Ratio is a stupid concept, in my opinion. It has very little practical application beyond what I'm getting ready to explain here. Every beginner on Earth overthinks it, and because of that, they get confused and go down all these wrong paths, and you don't have to do any of this stuff. It's real stupid. What they should call it is, instead of calling it ratio, they should just call it compression amount. I'd be much happier with that. I could live with that for sure. When it says ratio, the technical bullcrap is the theory, which doesn't even really work in real life mostly because of attack and release. But the theory is it's an input-output ratio, but it's an input ratio only after the threshold. And what the hell am I talking about? Well, let's just say we're at -6. All right, that's our threshold. We're at -6, so our magic line of threshold is here, and obviously this little spike got through. Now, how many decibels got through? Well, with no compression at all, let's just say it's at -2. I mean, just for easy figuring, we got 4 decibels through, right? Well, the theory is based on this. If we set the ratio to be 2 to 1, that means we have to shove 2 decibels in for every decibel out. Again, this is just Bernstein type boredom, classroom junk, because it doesn't really work. But anyway, so the idea is if we're at 2 to 1 and we've jammed 4 decibels into the compressor, or past the threshold, well, you're only going to get half of them back, 2 to 1. So you gave us 4, how about we gave you 2? And so actually, in theory, this thing, instead of peaking at 2 decibels, or -2, will now peak at -4. Does that make sense? We were at 2, we crossed the line at 6, so that's 4, 2 to 1. Again, that's probably confusing. I don't even care, because you don't have to know either. Because compression, the way it sounds to our ears, doesn't work this way anyway. What you need to know, we're going to nuke this a little bit. Let's see. Let me play just a second. And okay, we got our compressor going. And at 2 to 1, all you really need to know is look at this little blue thing. That's a pretty light setting. Let's call this compression amount. All right, so we turn it all the way down. Guess what? Compression's on 0. It's basically on bypass. It's not doing anything. And watch our gain reduction meter. You'll see that. Ah! Or watch your blasted, bleeding ears. That'll also tell you that since there's no compression to keep the volume down, I just blew your head off with it. Okay, so there you see that. Now I'm going to watch me here. And I'm going to slowly creep up this ratio and take a listen to what happens. I'm going to keep all the volumes the same here. Here we go. All right. Right away, compression kicked in. We're at a ratio of 1.42. So it doesn't take much over that 1-to-1 ratio for this thing to really start working. All right, here we go. Okay, it's definitely working harder. Keep going. All right, it's working a little harder as we go from 2 to 1 to 3 to 1. Maybe a little harder, I don't know. All right, from 4 to 1 to 5 to 1, I didn't hear jack crap difference. Maybe there is one, but I didn't really hear one. I'm going to go back to 4 to 1 and go back up to, and then come back to 5 again. Yeah, okay, maybe there is a difference, whatever. But it's so subtle that what do we care? And the theorists also say that anything over, is it 4 to 1? I think it's 4 to 1. I'm going to call it 4 to 1. Anything over 4 to 1 is limiting, or maybe it's 8 to 1. It, again, doesn't even matter. But anything above about 4 to 1 becomes almost irrelevant. It kind of reminds me of like guitar amp volume knobs, where once you get over half, it's just stupid volume. It's so loud, it's insane. It doesn't really get much louder. It just kind of saturates. Well, in this case, it doesn't even saturate. I'm going to turn it all the way up to, which I guess is 8 to 1 is the max in this Cubase compressor. All right, so let's listen. You see, there's almost no difference between 5 to 1 and 8 to 1. So why do we learn all this ratio theory when it doesn't even work right? And because of our attack and release, the compressor is kind of working at weird times anyway. Well, the answer is there isn't a good reason. It's just the standard. for many of these things. And you need to know that if you're at 10 to 1 or 8 to 1 or 5 to 1, something like, the last half of this little knob here, then you're really compressing it. And if you're more like 5 to 1, well, maybe you're being quite a bit more gentle. That doesn't mean you can't crush it by using more threshold, but it just means the compressor itself is not going to be acting that hard and that aggressively. So again, don't pay too much attention to the math. You don't have to memorize what a ratio is, but just know that 1-to-1 ratio is bypass. And our little slope thingy here says, hey, you guys can come up all the way up in a linear fashion. And these things aren't as intuitive as I wish they were, but we crank this thing up to 8 to 1. After you get to this little dot, hey, we're going to start doing some work here. So again, don't put too much stock in ratios, but remember that they do make a difference. And also, some compressors definitely sound different with different ratios. My Distressor, which is a hardware compressor, each mode actually sounds different, like each ratio. They really worked hard to get different voicings and all that kind of junk. That's kind of a more advanced thing, but just keep in mind, if you play with ratio, can have sonic benefits too. All right, guys, thanks. Bye.